On the Signals podcast today, we have the CEO of Getting Smart, Tom Vander Ark. Hey, Tom, thanks for being here.
Hey, great to see you, Laura.
I have to tell you, I had a funny story happen. I was at the JFF Horizons conference. I was sitting at a breakfast with one of those big round tables, that they have with like 12 of us. And someone said your name. It wasn't me. It usually is, but it wasn't me. And it was like all the heads snapped and turned. And the guy said, "Oh, do you all know Tom as well?" And everyone around the table at the JFF Horizons conference had a story about how a way that you'd helped them, with the exception of one woman who was just like, "I actually don't know him well, but we just decided to give funding to Getting Smart." And I'm so excited to know him. How is it possible that you know everybody in like the upskilling, learning, credentialing world?
Well, I used to have a big checkbook, so I when we started the Gates Foundation in 1999, I had been a school superintendent, and I went and I gave a speech my first day on the job to a group of fundraisers, and I got this big standing ovation. I was like, man, I must have been really good today. And then I realized they all gave me their pitch as I was trying to leave, and I thought, oh, I see. I've just entered the world of philanthropy, and I suddenly have more friends than I used to. And so that's number one. Is I met a lot of people because of that extraordinary opportunity with Bill and Melinda. But the best advice I've ever got is that Bill said, "Why don't you go visit schools for 6 months and come back and tell me what you want to do?" And that set off my great adventure of 1999, where I visited about 500 schools that fall, and then a few thousand more after that. And so just the chance to meet people and travel, mostly the United States, but the world, visiting the best schools was just the best education that I've ever had.
That's awesome. And I used to work for Adam Porson. So he used to say, yeah, when you hold the purse strings, right, everybody loves you. But you seem to like keep your friends for a long time. You support people for a long time. And for the woman who didn't really know you well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Getting Smart is doing now that you don't have the big Gates purse strings?
Well, Getting Smart's a national advocacy and advisory. We're sort of consultants with an attitude or an opinion about the future of learning. But between our advocacy and our advisory, we're really trying to help ed leaders understand the path forward. And so we try hard to spot trends and to surface them and to sort of elaborate, illuminate what's happening. And in doing that, we try to find people and schools and learning experiences that seem illustrative of what's next. So we've been doing that for 16 or 17 years. An example of this, Laura, would be that end of 2015, we spotted this thing called artificial intelligence, and by 2016, it had really become quite ubiquitous in the corporate enterprise space. And so we launched this campaign called Ask About AI because we thought it might be a big deal. and, and so we started waving the sort of AI flag in 2017, 2018. But I would say I was still surprised and sort of taken aback by what happened in 2022 as it had sort of exploded into the consumer space with Gen AI. But that's an example of what we try to do, is to spot things that are emerging, try to help people make sense of them on the path forward.
Okay, I think that's a really great way to put it, and I love the attitude piece. I think that sounds very true to you too, as well, Tom. But I'll tell you, we were just talking about this, that I was reading some of your old articles, and one of the spaces that, like, because I was at JFF, I'm really into is, this credentials and this online badging and things like that, because there's lots of I think Kathleen Gulaski just said 1 million different online credentials you can get in her new book, which you had written about, I think, as early as 2013. I think I found some things. And then I read the article you put out this year. So I guess AI is a great example of like the crystal ball that you saw it came true and it was even bigger than you expected. I wonder if credentialing and online credentials is one where you feel like it went a little bit slower and lower than you expected.
Yeah, no question. I would say, Laura, when I wrote Getting Smart in the fall, the Christmas break of 2010, and in that I sort of laid out the case for personalized learning, and I really thought it would go very quickly and suddenly be worldwide, and every student by 2015 across the world would have a great personalized education. And so we're still working on that. But in Getting Smart, and then in some papers that we wrote with John Bailey, who was at Excel and Ed at the time, we wrote about new signaling systems, particularly badging and credentialing. Remember, the MacArthur Foundation had just launched the open badge standard, and then we described something that we called a data backpack, which was kind of an early version of the learning and employment record that we thought would be the new way for learners to capture and communicate their new capabilities. So that combination of credentialing skills, capturing them in a verified way that became portable, and then creating a transport device. We call it a backpack, but an LER, or now we might call it a credential wallet, that would give learners the ability to permission a tailored version of their record out to employers, to post-secondary institutions. We still think that is the future, but I'll admit that it has moved much, much more slowly than we thought in 2013. It's a noisy space right now where there are a lot of credentials, but they're not being, the uptake by corporate partners in particular, it has not been as quick as we thought.
Yeah, it was interesting. At JFF, I listened to ASU kind of present their wallet for others to use, and
Right.
they were very excited about it.
Trusted Learner Network, I think, is their version.
Exactly. It looked really savvy and things. And the first question was that asked is like, how do we know which ones are worth something and not? Um, Let me ask you this. So one of the things that I was talking to Mallory from Craft Education yesterday, and one of the things that she said is that it's not just about the workforce, that also higher ed needs to start acknowledging that there are other ways that credits could be identified and used for learners.
Yes. We think that's going to be critical. And we do think that AI is going to help. You know, the old problem that we thought 10 years ago, we thought it's going to be a problem that there's different outcome frameworks and people that are badging and credentialing against different outcome frameworks might present a problem. We're now pretty sure that AI will help build a translation layer so that more companies and higher ed institutions can make more use of the metadata around a credential to extract information for a talent transaction. So AI is going to help make better use of credentials, particularly those that have, a rich set of metadata. What kind of experience was it? How was the learning demonstrated? Is there a link to the evidence? And we think AI is going to help make credentials more valuable, and we think that colleges will start making better use of them in admissions. We think employers will start actually doing skill-based hiring as these new platforms do a better job of extracting the information from credentialing systems.
Okay, so you're making more. Can you tell me a little bit about like why this matters?
Degrees are a crappy skill proxy. They really have never been a strong signal, and America kind of called BS on higher ed in about 2018. I think it's the point where the lines crossed, where the cost of higher education and the perceived value crossed in about 2018, and people really became pervasively negative on the ROI of higher ed. And at the heart of this, the signaling system, that degree just doesn't transmit enough quality information for to unlock new levels of opportunity. So we need a better signaling system that is more specific. So it's a smaller grain size, right? It's specific to the skills and relevant to the task of employment. So more specific and more detailed. And so that's really the goal, is to better equip learners to communicate their capability.
You did such a lovely job of kind of describing why we called this podcast The Signals. So a long time ago, I was in an education economics class, and the professor, kind of said, the problem with the signals that we put on resumes right now is that they really don't encompass anything about you except for where you went to college if you're young. And like his big push was like, actually what we should be putting is where you got into college, because lots of people can't afford the amazing schools they get into. But the
Yes.
real signal is where you get into, not where you can pay to be,
Yes.
as far as your intelligence. And so what I'm hearing you say is it's not just about where you go to school or where you get into school, but your signals would be also what can you do, and how do we like show down to like the skill level what you can do.
Yeah. So let me go off on that for
Yeah,
just a minute.
do it.
What I want to add to this picture is not only what you can do in terms of a skill credential, which would be a demonstrated skill. I think we need to add to the signal verified experiences. This is for a couple of reasons. More and more students are having more powerful learning experiences starting in high school. That includes work-based learning, internships, client-connected projects. Some people would call that a project-based internship, an entrepreneurial experience. These are rich, extended, community-connected experiences that they develop and demonstrate important skills, but they're valuable in and of themselves. They're a form of community-connected experience that I think really belongs on the resume. It belongs on the transcript. It belongs in the learning and employment record. And so what we're proposing is that we have a standard way to capture the metadata around valuable experiences so that it goes along to the learning record with the skill credential. So it becomes a verified resume, if you will, that helps learners build and share these sort of stackable experiences. This is also important because it's getting harder and harder for young people to get entry-level experience. If you look at the headlines of the last quarter, we're seeing real slowdown in technical and professional employment, particularly for new graduates. It's getting harder to get that entry-level job. Often you're seeing like 3 years required for an entry-level job. And so kids are like, I don't have experience, but I need experience to get experience. So
Yeah.
we think these experiences and client projects and entrepreneurial experiences can sort of stack to equal, several years worth of experience that make young people eligible for employment. So we think that's part of the new signal: experiences and skill credentials.
Well, and I'd even push too that if it's not even like a specific experience of an internship or something, that the experience of working at McDonald's and running the register or anywhere with people who are unhappy about their Starbucks drink or whatever you've done is also valuable, but not a
Right.
great signal.
Right. It's not, but I think we can improve the signal quality of that experience by just sort of capturing the data around it to say, what exactly did you do? Why was it a valuable experience? How long did you do it? Were you doing it by yourself or with a team? If we can capture that metadata, I think we can make some of those experiences, whether it was being a volunteer somewhere, or maybe it was a leadership position at school. It could have been being captain of an extracurricular team. It could also be a client project that was part of a course. These could be in or outside of school, but capturing that experience so that with skill credentials, it can provide a really rich signal.
Okay, then let's talk about skill credentials. I think we're both like aligned that this experience thing is really valuable. It's underrated, and we don't have a way to signal it on resumes. But then credentials, I think they're the problem. And I think the issue with experiences, I would disagree with you. I know you said that some high school kids are having really rich experiences. I think a lot of high school kids are also still struggling to find experiences and
Yes.
figure out where they fit in that space. But on this credentialing thing, there's lots to find, right? You can go online and get credentialed in anything. And then again, the signal has very little value. And if you're somebody who has kids, like not high school kids, let's talk about, adults at home, online learning is kind of where you're at. So tell me a little bit about like that other piece of this puzzle, the credentials of your skills.
Yeah, it's noisy out there. I think there's a million credentials out there, and there might be a couple hundred that are valued by employees. So, um, and the core to this challenge is there's not a good way for young people to determine which ones are valuable. In about half the states, they've provided some guidance on which industry recognized credentials are of particular value. That's really important information. We think school districts could do a better job um, of both identifying and even incorporating these IRCs into pathways. Colleges can do the same thing, where you're building. It could be a shorter than degree sprint, maybe to a certificate, and that certificate could incorporate an industry recognized credential, so that you're earning both credit towards a valuable certificate and one that incorporates an industry recognized credential. So I think we have to help young people spot the credentials that are of some value. But this is an area where I think chambers of commerce, workforce boards, and state education agencies can continue to do an even better job of helping identify ones that are really valuable.
Is there one that you think is really valuable?
I li- Advanced manufacturing would be a good example of stackable credentials that are often incorporated into a course of study that typically terminate with an associate AS degree, often gathered with work experience. And so that's a great combination of a pathway that incorporates multiple credentials and a degree structure that has pretty strong signaling benefit. I will say that folks like the Lumina Foundation and some of their sister organizations, Strata, ECMC, Ascendium, are being helpful here. You may have noticed that Lumina just updated their national goal. They had this goal of 60% of adults having a degree or a credential. They just bumped that up to 75%,
Wow.
which
And what they're finding adult as over 21 or over 18?
18.
Okay.
And what they've done though is they expanded their definition of a valuable credential, but they've added a threshold of quality, which is that credential has to produce at least a 15% delta over non-attainment in earnings power. So these are valuable in terms of demonstrated increase in earnings capability. So I think that definition is important because it really does signal getting a degree or a credential is important only if it demonstrates that in terms of earning power.
Okay, that makes sense to me. One of the things I heard yesterday was that the solution here is about, and I feel like I hadn't heard this much before, was that it's about K-12 schools, higher ed, and the workforce all have to come to terms and agree to a few things for this to work for, especially like rising seniors.
Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of truth there, and that's why it hasn't happened very widely. Um, we do think credential ecosystems will emerge regionally where there are shared agreements uh, between high schools, colleges, and groups of employers. We're seeing pockets of that emerge in Ohio, in Indiana, in Arkansas.
St. Vrain, I think here in Colorado does it well, or is getting there.
They do as a smaller system.
Yeah.
Uh, you have I would say career wise in Colorado has done that around apprenticeships. I think that's an example of it. The second category, so these are going to emerge in geo ecosystems, but I think they'll also emerge in particularly industry verticals. So I mentioned manufacturing as an example of a national vertical that has a valuable set of credentials that can be recognized. In some respects, nursing and more broadly healthcare is another example. Nursing is a little bit kludgy because it's the licensure is often a combination of credentials and degrees, and those aren't always synced up by educational institutions. But it is a vertical that has credentials that are meaningful to gainful employment. So these are going to emerge both geographically and vertically, but it's been slow and messy.
Okay, this gets me to like I think the next part of my session, which I kind of want to say, like I was looking at your LinkedIn. You've been a director of a board. I don't know. You may know. Do you actually know the number? Because I couldn't get to like, is it 20? More than that? How many boards have you been on?
Oh yeah, a lot, couple dozen.
Okay, and what makes it so that you want to keep solving on this problem? Like I said at the very beginning, at 2013, you were writing an article about, hey, we should have these wallets for credentials and then they would be meaningful. And then this year, Getting Smart put out an article that said 25% of HR leaders trust credentials. So that's a
Oh,
good like 12-year span of this pain. Tom, how do you get up every morning and keep working on this?
I man, I when my one of my colleagues put that in a draft, and I said that can't possibly be true, and they said no. Look at the survey. The interesting thing, Laura, is that survey. I think it was a SHRM survey. Um, it did note that there was that CEOs are make more use and find more value in credentialing than HR professionals, the people that are actually reading their resumes. So there is a gap that I think corporate leaders see the future, the future value, but the practitioners still. I think it's mostly a tool gap that they don't have the tools that help them do this um, accurately and efficiently at any scale.
Okay. Again,
Well,
though,
anyway, but to answer your question, I mean, we've got to figure this out because it's kind of a noisy mess right now. I was actually pretty encouraged during the pandemic. It felt like we two things happened. I thought we flipped to a platform world where it's like, okay, everybody needs to be on a platform. Now we can, and everybody has to have access, right? To powerful learning experiences and to the internet. And I thought the second flip was that companies had made the flip to skills based hiring, um, but it didn't quite pan out that way.
catch.
I don't think it felt like that might have been a false early signal. We're still working on it.
If you could make like one change in this like ecosystem with a snap of your fingers, you'd say it would be this.
Well, that's an interesting question. So I think it would be that we'd flip to credentials and learning and employment records, that everybody would have them right now. Every high school kid in America, every college student would have an LER, and that the goal would be, instead of filling out the transcript with courses and grades, that we're assembling a record of success demonstrated and shared through credentials. However, I'm old enough now to have experienced a number of unintended consequences, like NCLB. You and I have talked about this, that I'm out helping to stand up America's great progressive schools on one hand, and helping to fund the creation of NCLB on the other hand. These two ideas did not
Play nicely.
come together as nicely as hoped. And so my hesitation about instantly flipping to a credentialed future is that we could create pretty quickly another dystopian future, where instead of an end of year exam that's completely irrelevant to a student's course of study, past or future, that we now have 30 end of unit exams, and there are these little mini assessments for credentials, and that high school becomes this Pokemon Go of, oh, I need to get my creativity badge, and I need to get my collaboration badge, and that you have these disembodied sprints to credentials, and they're assessments that are not very relevant to the learner. So I'm cautious about instantly flipping to credentials without an effort to really make sure that we're promoting deeper learning, meaningful learning, powerful learning experiences. This is part of why I think if we could describe graduation requirements not just as a set of demonstrated skills, but a set of powerful experiences that are really critical for youth development, that we want them to experience success in the arts. We want them to experience success in civic engagement. We want them to experience success in multiple work settings. We want them to experience contribution, creating value for your community. We want them to experience success in scientific inquiry. If we can describe a set of powerful experiences and skills, then I think we can get closer to ensuring that every student has a really rich, community-connected secondary experience that is well communicated.
Would you be interested in taking away degree requirements from like most professions?
Sure, because they're not very useful, and I thought that happened during the pandemic. I thought Byron Auguste and Opportunity at Work won for their stars, and even though a lot of governments sort of rolled back degree requirements, and quite a few companies did, guess what? HR professionals keep using those pesky degrees as a proxy.
Is this our like sticking point as HR professionals? Do you think that that's like kind of where this is all getting stuck, or is it's got to be bigger than that, right?
It does, but I think we can blame them for our good. That's what the data says, that again, they are operating systems that haven't in the past had super sophisticated tools to both attract and screen, and then hire and retain talent. So the talent systems are getting better quickly. I think I'm a fan of Josh Bersin on this front, and I try to track the he's the best chronicler of adding intelligence to human resource functions, including learning and development functions, and he's quite optimistic about
and then
smart tools, helping employers do a better job of attracting, retaining, and growing talent.
Okay, so then when you think about getting smart, like where are you? Because like, I mean, we have talked about, to your point, it's messy, right? This is like a nest of all different stakeholders, lots of different interests, lots of different things that we've tried and gone back and forth on. When you think about where you at getting smart are kind of like encouraging investing, where is it in this space of new profiles for learners and for people trying to get jobs?
Well, we this year we've issued a number of reports that I think answer that question. We issued a portrait model, which says every learning system, secondary and post-secondary, ought to have a set of learning goals that are a broad description of the knowledge, skills, dispositions necessary for success. We issued a couple reports on credentialing that summarize the conversation that we've had about how to create, issue, share credentials and verified experiences in digital wallets. And then third, we're working across a number of states with lots of school districts to implement competency-based systems that are built around a portrait of a graduate or a learner profile, and are at least experimenting with credentialing. So I think those are the primary answers. I'll jump ahead and say the thing that I'm still super optimistic about and feel strongly about is just new school development. I think we continue to be big advocates for creating new schools around new learning models that really capture the opportunity of the moment. Particularly using Gen AI to both author powerful experiences, to execute them, and to assess them. That can be done in a traditional school, but there's really a terrific opportunity to create, even if it's on a small scale. We just issued the public micro school playbook, and suggested that every public system ought to create a little pilot program, a new school within a school, an academy that demonstrates the power of these new learning models and new signaling systems. So I get that this is hard because a lot of systems have smaller budgets. They may have smaller enrollments. They have a lot of schools that are half full. And then I tell them, oh, you should start a new school. They're like, well, we have to close some of the schools that we have. So this is challenging, but we think the opportunity to form a new school around the new opportunity set and to pilot some of these new signaling systems is super, super important.
You know, this is kind of seems like another thing though that like has been around for a couple decades, right? And I gotta tell you, you're bringing me back to a conversation I had with, I think his name is Tom Arnott from the Clayton Christensen Foundation, and he and I were talking, and he was talking all about how we need to build these innovative schools and these creative schools. And he has a second and third grader, and so I asked him, I said, "Where do your kids go to school?" He's like, "Down the street neighborhood traditional public school." So. And as someone who loves a good innovative school, Tom, why do you seem to pick these nests that are so hard to untangle?
Yeah, it's well, it's fair. I think new schools are really critical to introducing a new generation of learning model, and by that I mean, we assembled what Kim Smith has been calling Horizon 1 schools. Those are the traditional industrial, aiming at grade level proficiency. Horizon 2 schools are. She really helped to create those when she formed New School Venture Fund, which really funded all the best chartered management organizations in the country. It ended up yielding about 50 really good charter networks that created an updated blended learning model that delivered pretty good fidelity to a next generation learning model, on a shared digital platform, and did it relatively quickly. So in the course of the first 10 years of New School Venture Fund, and then similarly at the Gates Foundation, operating outside the New School Venture Fund, we work with places like New York City to open 400 new schools, and worked with district networks like New Tech Network and EL Education and Big Picture Learning. And so between those charters and the district new schools, there were probably 20,000 new schools that were formed that created what Kim's been calling Horizon 2 schools. We now think there's the opportunity for Horizon 3 schools, the what's next. And we've been writing about that on Getting Smart this year. And we've had the good fortune to have contributions from about 20 different organizations to describe these next horizon schools that are truly learner-centered, that often incorporate smart tools and better signals. You can phase in, adopt that sort of model in a traditional setting, but it's done much more quickly and with higher levels of efficacy in a new school model. And so I just think it might change. My theory of change for the United States is that it has to include thousands of new schools that illustrate the new opportunity set. I just don't think we can transform all of public education without thousands of new schools that show the way.
When you talk about smart tools, like at Chiron, we're a smart tool and we're mostly higher ed. And part of the reason we ended up in higher ed was in K-12. We felt like there was not this interest in, now obviously this has been proven somewhat wrong because there are people using it, but like tutors or teachers for students that are AI forward or AI driven. Is that what you're talking about for smart tools? What are you talking about when you say integrating individualized pathways using smart tools?
Yeah, it certainly includes the power of AI, and that includes teacher tools and tutoring. Those are kind of the two current areas of focus that are quite widespread and I think becoming quite productive. I spent a couple days in Nevada this week and helping them roll out their Stellar framework, which is a very robust statewide approach to AI adoption. I'm going to Michigan this weekend, and Michigan Virtual has been a statewide partner that has really been thoughtful about helping Michigan schools implement some first steps in AI. And so we are seeing good examples of regional, even statewide adoption of new tools. I would say that next-gen models are also incorporating AI into project-based learning. We're really excited about that. Inquire is doing really interesting work with High Tech GSE on project-based AI authored projects.
Yeah.
PlayLab is powering a lot of folks. You guys are doing a lot of learning experience design that includes, but isn't limited to project-based learning. So we're excited about that. The next horizon, just beyond this one, maybe this is Horizon 4, it's going to be the era of dynamic content, when we can have truly personalized pathways for every learner, where we're not just curating existing content and experiences, but AI is producing dynamic content that's creates a personalized learning journey. And I would add that doesn't have to be a solo learning journey, right? It can be a set of experiences that are both individual skills sprints, and then a Socratic seminar, and then a team-based project. So it's dynamic, it's individual, it's team, but it's produced in the moment to create the next best experience for a learner. And so I'm optimistic about that version of personalized learning that's just on the horizon.
I was gonna kind of close this down because you were like, we covered so many different things, but there is a part of me that's like, okay, when you talk about personalized content, is it like my concern is accuracy becoming personalized, right? That what I want it to give me is what it's going to give me. What I
Yeah.
believe it should be giving me.
Big concern today. I think it's becoming less. It will become less a concern as the tools get better and as they're more specific to the task. We're beginning to see in the corporate L&D space the beginning of dynamic content. But these models are trained on their library and less likely to hallucinate outside the company's library of content. So dynamic content by well-trained models with some guardrails is probably the answer to that.
Well, and I feel like now we're back at the very beginning talking about skills, right? If we can tie the content to a very specific skills, very specific understanding, then you can build back to something that has the guardrails, but also allows the individualized pathway.
Yes. And I'll give you another example. John Danner, he was the founder of the Rocket Ship Network, is opening an AI first school in Nashville this fall.
Interesting.
It will incorporate his AI reading tutor and his AI first math tutor, and he's sprinting to add some AI supported project-based learning. So this will be an example of an AI first school, open as a micro school. We think it's a really good idea that will sort of test the horizon. But my point is that it's going to be built on the two companies that he started in reading and math, where they really improved the quality of instruction because of the instructional materials that it's trained on. So I'm agreeing that that's it's important, but it's a very interesting opportunity set.
Yeah.
Why we need more new schools.
It's no matter how many times you've already written about it, we need more new school. Well, I think what you're saying though, like, is yes, in 2013 and 2000, whatever, you definitely had ideas about these things. But just like AI, now that we have this opportunity with AI, they could be bigger, better, and actually come to fruition. And that maybe you've had the crystal ball all along, and this was the tool that needed to make it happen.
I hope so. And one of the reasons we're excited about micro schools. I used to be the small schools guy. Now I'm the really small schools guy. One of the cool things about micro schools is that John and his partner had this idea 2 months ago, and he's going to open in September. So we have the opportunity to move much more quickly than we did in the past. You compare that to when John started Rocket Ship, and he had to go through the planning and authorizing and raising a couple $1 million.
Right.
So it was a 3-year proposition to start a new school, and now it's more like a 3-month proposition to try something on a small scale.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we've got just a little bit of time. I hope your crystal ball is right. And I hope that, the next time we talk, there's new articles about all the ways that this has become successful. But I'm going to close us out because we only have a few minutes with our 5 questions that we ask everybody. The first one is, if you were going to go back and get a new degree or certification or credential right now, what would it be in?
That's so I wouldn't go get a degree. I don't have a PhD, so I'm sort of the non-degreed. Um, I play an educator on TV. So it would probably be an individual skill sprint. I'm sort of on my own individual skill sprint on AI, and it's my loosely coordinated Gen AI learning experience skill sprint. So that's probably the best answer because I'm already doing it. The the other one would be cooking with mushrooms. I really love to cook, and that's my other learning journey is just trying to suck less at putting vegetables on the plate.
Foraging, AI, and mushrooms. I got it. All right. What's one lesson that you've learned that you could have only learned with experience?
Oh, just the unintended consequences, right? Think hard and long. Think like an ancestor. Think about how things could go differently than you anticipate. Don't assume that your theory of action will work the way that you intended. We work in a hyper connected, volatile world. So short sprints, small bets, move fast, reconsider.
All right. What's a signal that's not currently on resumes that you think should be?
Well, we've talked about these verified experiences. I think a resume ought to be thick with valuable experiences. I'm particularly drawn to the creative arts and to performing arts. I really think every high school student in America should have one or two powerful experiences in the performing arts.
Interesting. I don't think you've ever heard me sing, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, these can be such powerful experiences, and the cool thing is it's a learning journey that is both individual and collective simultaneously. If you're in a chorale or in an orchestra or in a band or producing a stage production, it's both this individual learning journey and a collective learning journey. It's very compressed, ends in a public performance. It could be front of the house or back of the house, but these are super valuable ways to form identity and agency. They may contribute to a sense of purpose. So we'd love to see more kids successful there.
What's your personal mantra?
I don't know if I have one. Our Getting Smart, we talk about innovating for equity. I guess that's what it is. And I sort of feel the tension between those ideas every day. Of 'cause innovation by and of itself creates inequity, and so it creates the need to bring innovation to scale when it actually works. And so the tension between innovation and equity, I guess, is my mantra.
And your go-to karaoke song?
Oh man, I That's we were just trying to compile both a list of the top 10 best albums and the top 10 or 100 best songs of all time. And it's interesting. My daughter Caroline and I, we didn't have as much overlap as I thought. Um, the our dance song for her day was for her wedding was "Beautiful Day."
Oh, it's
That
that one.
that'd be hard to beat.
When you said Caroline, I thought you were gonna go with Sweet Caroline, but I think Beautiful Day would be even
We
better.
it that's on her list. We played that one at the wedding too. But Beautiful Day. I love the sense of possibility in that song.
I hope someday I get to hear you sing it, maybe as like, your performing arts credit that you're getting. It was really good to see you, Tom. Thanks for all your support of me. Thanks for your support of so many learners everywhere on all different levels. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks.